But yeah, okay. So I've just started the recording. Okay, some questions. First of all, I think like mainly what my project is geared towards is like looking at this from like OpenAI, the company's like perspective. So like what would be beneficial to them and like in that way. And so I think one thing that you've talked about is like how like this isn't actually very environmentally productive.
Well, that's not the case because you have to weigh everything, and people have, and we can go through and say that the impact on the climate is like 100 times better, but it's not a complete solution. So
Okay.
we have to keep working on the better solution. So OpenAI has all these computers and all these disks.
Yeah.
Where do they recycle the disk? Is every component of a disk and every piece of their electronics recycled? And are they, if you're going to say that you're going to use renewable energy, are you using recycling and circular economy concepts and everything that you do, and every company does as they move forward?
Yeah.
So there's some company that I've learned about that has a process where they can cut off the corners of all these discs and take that magnet out and recycle it. And it could be used back in more discs, or it could be used to make the wind turbines. So these things are, they're really important pieces. But no, there's no argument about moving to solar and wind, and the long term, they're already cheaper than anything else that's out there. So
yeah,
it'd be crazy for them not to.
Okay.
And there are very small negative aspects to them as long as people are cognizant of the need to recycle and to demand that the companies and the rules of engagement for all of these are that they are to put pressure on them to recycle everything.
Okay, so what are some suggestions that you have that are, different than just like, going for wind and solar that you think would be like a more renewable way of getting, a source of electricity or a source of energy?
Oh, there isn't. No, there isn't a better one. I think that the only part is that if you're going to design wind blades and wind turbines, make sure that the components are recyclable so that the raw materials don't have to be extracted again and process.
Okay.
All without all of that. So just to say that to put the pressure on the industry but there's just no argument against the lower costs. Here's another piece that rainfalls can be more unpredictable, and hydropower is unreliable. And as we move forward, it become more and more unreliable in large parts of the world. So that it would be really bad to rely on hydro. And Niagara Falls isn't going to stop flowing, but it provides a massive amount of energy for a lot of New England and a lot of Eastern Canada. So those things will continue, but many other smaller dam projects are really not going to work, and there are also challenges long term.
Yeah.
So hydro isn't good.
Okay.
And any of the alternatives within that liquid natural gas is not is better, but it's still really bad than any of the alternatives. The green hydrogen, if it would work, in some situations it could, that would be great, but the process that splits the hydrogen is energy intensive, and many places use dirty energy to do the splitting in the first place, to create the green hydrogen, and then say we're going to sequester the CO2 in the subsurface. But the subsurface itself is sensitive to all these changing pressures. It's the same thing that happens with fracking, where we end up with earthquakes in areas that had never experienced earthquakes because you inject so much water or CO2 or something else, and the subsurface is really complicated. And over time, we can have situations that develop that are unsafe, and groundwater can be contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
So of all the options, wind and solar is the least harmful to humans in any. And there's no hidden surprises.
Yeah.
It's utilizing aspects of the system that we know well.
Okay.
But the subsurface of the earth we don't know well.
Yeah.
If we do something here or there are potentially many consequences.
Yeah, sure.
And
Wait.
we know through history that that's the case too.
I see. I just like as a side question, like what is like the practice of using fracking as a source of energy? What is that called? Is that?
It's just
it's
getting gas out of rocks that where it's kind of held tightly.
Yeah.
You have to open some cracks, but you want to open them just enough to let the gas out, but without causing earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's a fraught process.
Yeah, I see.
It's not a good one.
Yeah.
But the other thing with fracking and many other aspects of the hydrocarbon industry is that there's a lot of wastewater.
Okay.
And the wastewater is then dumped back down underground out, so it won't cause problems at the surface. But the volumes are so large that it actually changes the subsurface and starts causing earthquakes. So Oklahoma has more and more powerful earthquakes than California has over the past 10 years.
Wow.
Because of the wastewater injection.
So. Oh my gosh. Wait, that's really interesting. So one part of the project that we have to do is possible alternatives if we don't decide to do wind and solar. Do you think that there are any alternatives at all that are better or like that could be equally as like good as wind and solar or something like that?
Locally, geothermal has just not been utilized or considered, and yet we have wells drilled down to where temperatures are 200 degrees centigrade or more, and that's enough. Not a high power plant, but for new industry, they could utilize geothermal in many areas. And down here in the Gulf Coast area, in the Southwest, Boise, Idaho is almost all geothermal. So there are many places that can, and geothermal is clean. There's no problem with it. You just have to keep the tubes from you put water down to where it's hot enough that it boils, generates steam, run a turbine, and then re-inject the water, and you just keep going and going and going.
Okay, I see.
There's just no negative side effects.
Yeah, and then you said this is for companies that aren't like super high power or like something.
You couldn't have a power plant like a high power plant like Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay.
Supplies like all of New England.
I see.
But if you set up a new company or a new business that's energy intensive, you could locally use your geothermal.
Do you think that would be?
And people use heat pumps all the time. It's exactly the same concept. It's just larger scale.
Okay, is that something that would be sustainable for OpenAI in the long run if they were like to keep on growing and growing as they are right now? Is that like kind of
investigate it at every site they consider it? And
I see.
A lot of sites where there isn't adequate groundwater. The temperatures are high and adequate groundwater. Gulf of Mexico, yes, it works.
Okay.
But parts of the Southwest, no, it's not going to work. For example.
Okay, I see. Okay, I think I have like two more questions. One, so I know we talked a lot about how like the magnets in the wind turbines are, like making, wind energy not purely a renewable source, right?
Yes, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
for sure.
And we economists and environmental scientists have worked it out and said, without a doubt, there is no question, we want these. But the point is we can do wind and solar better by ensuring that we are recycling everything we possibly can. EVs. There need and many other things. Or when you buy anything with a battery in it, is there a responsibility to recycle the battery? You don't even know where you drop off your battery, do you?
Yeah. I have no idea.
Car battery, you know you have to. You can't throw it in your dump, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know with anything else, and we should.
Yeah. I mean, I just go back to the store and I'll be like, trade in, but that's all I know, like, about, like...
Or you go to Best Buy and drop off everything you possibly can.
Yes.
For you. Haven't you noticed? Why aren't you students all saying, "Hey, Tulane, why aren't there collection bins on campus?"
Yeah, no, for sure. I think so. I think that's another problem with Louisiana because they don't have like recycling bins like at all, like delivered to
Yes, but
houses. But
that's
yeah.
not an excuse.
Yeah.
That's an obstacle. But
Yeah.
every obstacle has a solution.
Agreed. Yeah,
And
I think so
Tulane
too.
can set a standard.
Yes, I also think because Tulane is such a huge institution, like
Look
they
at
can.
glass half full.
Yes.
Do you think anybody said go do it? No, they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
These are things we can do.
Yeah.
We can do an awful lot better, and then we can attract investors by
Mhm.
showing that we have the collection. We'll get people to come. Do you know that there? Sorry, this is really passionate.
No, go ahead. I would love
Do
to
you know
hear.
that there are plants? Plants. It's well known that like arsenic and cadmium and some other bad things from the hydrocarbon processing plants can accumulate in the soil, and plants will uptake. So sugarcane concentrates those, and then when you burn the stubble and all the rest of it, they release it back into the field so people can breathe it, and it's bad stuff. Right?
Okay.
So we have to watch all these things. Well, we can turn them around to take the plants that concentrate the metals that we want and use algae and stuff like that. Just like grind this stuff up, put the algae in with it, and then collect the algae, dry it out, and there you go. You've got all your metals. So there are people who do stuff like this. This is all the cool things that are out there. And this is why places like OpenAI have to embrace. So this is what I'm going to say is that if they want to be progressive, they have to be truly progressive.
Yes.
And this whole concept of circular economy. I'm looking for paper. I got it.
Oh no, you're good. Okay.
Okay, so here's one.
Yeah.
This is just one country. But if you look, these are their shipping by boat is the only cheap way. It's the only way to move heavy things.
Okay.
And if you look over here, this is just the country Brazil.
Okay.
And all of these green are emissions related to moving ore, metals for manufacturing to China for processing and then back to whoever buys it from them. 3/4 of all the emissions from shipping are from moving all these metals around to make wind turbines, solar, all the rest.
I see.
So we can do better than that.
Yeah.
Right? If we locally recycle
Yes.
and do all these other things. So this is the kind of stuff
Okay.
that economists and business folks. So you're in B school.
Yes.
Tell these guys. They can say we don't want to do waste, but
Okay.
see if they don't because the money's all there.
Yeah.
That.
Okay. So let me
Such important money.
Yes. Let me try and recap what you just told me so I can present it accurately. But basically what you're saying is that they're losing a lot of money in the way that they're transporting these
and
materials. And so
these are carbon emissions.
Yes.
CO2 emissions from all of this.
yeah. So like not only are they losing money, but they're also like obviously like just harming the environment a lot with these emissions.
So if we keep digging up stuff in the ground to make more because we're throwing everything away.
Yeah. It's just going to be more costly and when instead we could just, recycle batteries
So
or like do something like that.
come up with, so if OpenAI wants to power up and build a new plant,
Yeah.
what is their circular economy approach to that?
Well,
So
yeah.
everything that comes in so that there's only a thin waste stream, everything else is reused. Or that they have suppliers and other people to be able to do that. So I'd say yes, but the numbers are all crystal clear. They've all been worked out. Wind and solar are super low risk. They're not carbon neutral, but they're very close. If you take the whole process from the manufacturer of the things that are going to be collecting the energy, but they are. Any other alternative is going to be this costly to the environment, and this is only this costly.
Yeah.
And what I'm asking you to do is push people to be aware that they could bring this part down.
Right. I see. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much.
So let me see if I have one more.
Yeah, I would love to see. I'd like to take pictures of these too, if you'd let me.
No, you can take this one.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I write reports to this department. I just go to speak.
Yeah.
For a meeting on Minds of the Future. But
Uh-huh.
I've got, and I tried to, I've been learning a lot about econ, but let me see if
Wow.
I can find other articles.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate that. Also, yeah, thank you for doing this on such like short notice. Like I was gonna drop in and just ask